we're yet to take a look at all the latest developments making the rounds in the world of sports. First, the World Cup qualifiers on the African continent is set to resume today, match day 7. Gabon would be in action. But for the Super Eagles of Nigeria, we have our players in camp of the Super Eagles. And of course, you tell that for those players who are in camp, they held the training session there at the training bowl of the 𝐷𝐿 𝐶𝐈𝐒 Stadium there in Uyo. Well, we'll discuss about some other sporting stories which definitely involves the world of tennis. That's talking about the last major Grand Slam of the year, the Flushing Meadows. That's the US Open for Venus Williams. She lost out. That was late yesterday alongside Lele Fernandez there in the women's doubles to the hands of Taylor Townsend and Katrina Siniakova. But then for one man, he was still on course to win his 25th major Grand Slam title. His name is Novak Djokovic. But who will he be facing in the semi-finals? His name is Carlos Alcaraz. Yeah, that's what we have to see again there in the world of tennis. This man is not letting the young ones have it easy. You either go past me to win the title. But then, let's see what will go down. We'll discuss about the US Open. The fixtures of games are set to go down also later today. But for the defending champion in the WTA category, she's also in the semi-finals without taking on to the field of play. That's after our opponent pulled out. That's 2023 Wimbledon champion. And then we'll discuss about the interesting world of transfer. Yes, some players are still making move in the Turkish league. They have until September 12 to have their transfer deadline. But then for German midfielder, his name is 𝐒𝐿 Gundogan. He has joined the Victor Osimhen there in Galatasaray. So all of these we'll discuss on today's edition of the program right on 32 FM 94.9. But before we go further, we join our partners now, the BBC, to take a listen to what they have for us as regards the BBC Premier League update. Yes, for the Lions of England, there have been players who have been called upon. Ruben Loftus-Cheek and Jarrell Quansah. These ones have been called upon into the folds of the Lions of England. And then for the PGML chief, that's talking about Howard Webb. He has said it was a misjudgment that's taking off King's goal in that game against the Chelsea Football Club at the bridge over the course of the weekend. Let's join our partners, the BBC, to take a listen to what they have for us on that front of the BBC Premier League update. And when we come back, we'll take a look at updates from the African scene. That's talking about the NWFL season set to begin in about a month from now. But the championship, where we have 17 teams vying for a spot to play in the NWFL season, they are going to have their draw set to go down later today. But let's join the BBC Premier League update to take a listen to what they have for us.
BBC Premier League update from the home of Premier League football.
Hello, I'm Shabnam Yunus-Jewell at the BBC Sports Centre. Alexander Isak has said it's been an honour to play for Newcastle as he thanked the club's supporters in a farewell message following his move to Liverpool. The Sweden striker joined the Premier League champions on deadline day on Monday for a British record transfer fee in excess of $167 million after a drawn-out transfer saga. Isak scored in Newcastle's 2-1 win over Liverpool in the League Cup final in March as the club won their first domestic trophy in 70 years. However, in the summer, he said he wanted to leave the Magpies and did not play for them this season. Liverpool did miss out on signing Mark Gay from Crystal Palace, though, with the deal collapsing at last minute. But Chief Football News reporter Simon Stone says the Palace captain is not in a bad position after what's happened.
In January, he'll be allowed to talk to whoever he likes because that's the agreement, that pre-contract agreement that players whose contracts are running out are allowed to do. And then he can leave next summer, and presumably because there will be no transfer fee, he will be able to negotiate higher wages.
Meanwhile, after an injury to Crystal Palace midfielder Adam Wharton, AC Milan midfielder Ruben Loftus-Cheek has been added to the England squad for the 2026 World Cup qualifiers against Andorra and Serbia. It's 7 years after his last cap. Galatasaray have signed German midfielder İlkay Gundogan from Manchester City on a free transfer. The 34-year-old has agreed a deal until the end of the 2026-27 season with the Turkish champions. And Professional Game Match Officials Limited chief Howard Webb says the contentious decision to disallow Josh King's goal for Fulham in their Premier League defeat by Chelsea last weekend was a misjudgment. Webb's acknowledged it was an error while speaking on a TV programme analysing VAR decisions. And for more football news from the BBC, go to bbc.com/football.
BBC Premier League update from the home of Premier League football.
All right, there you are at the BBC Premier League update. Quickly, let's move on to the continent of Africa, where definitely we reside, and talk about updates from that front. Where Africa qualification tournament for the 2026 FIFA World Cup resumes with match day 7 fixtures. That's starting from today till September 6, and is set to bring into sharper focus the continent's likely representatives at next year's global showpiece there in North America. That's the USA, Mexico, and Canada. These three nations are set to co-host the FIFA Men's World Cup. So we talk about that the action resumes with Group F match later this afternoon, in which Gabon they'll back themselves with a win away to Seychelles and leapfrog the reigning Africa Cup of Nations champions Ivory Coast at the top of the log, with the Elephants having their chance to reply. That's on Friday night when they welcome Burundi there to Abidjan. Let's talk about the Super Eagles of Nigeria. At this point in time, we have 15 players are in camp. And of course, they trained at the main bowl of the 𝐃𝐈𝐒𝐂𝐋𝐈𝐒 International Stadium in Uyo as the Super Eagles they began their preparation for the crucial 2026 World Cup qualifiers against Rwanda. And the session was overseen by the team's head coach, 𝐂𝐿. The remaining 8 players are expected to join the camp later today, but the players in camp, we have the players expected in camp later today, that's a goalkeeper Stanley Wabali, Toro Arukudari, who just joined, that's Wolverhampton Wanderers in England. Victor Osimhen also, who made his move permanent to join the Turkish champion, that's Galatasaray Christos Uche, who also just joined the Crystal Palace there in England. Ademola Lookman, who has been included in Atlanta's UEFA Champions League squad. Sirides has also changed sides from that Scotland to Greece. Samuel Chukwueze, who also changed sides, and now a Fulham player, Rafael Oyedika, there in Belgium with Club Brugge. They are all expected to be in camp later today, and the Super Eagles will continue their training session later today. And the clash against Rwanda will be match day 7 encounter at the 𝐃𝐈𝐒𝐂𝐋𝐈𝐒 International Stadium there in Uyo, before we find ourselves in South Africa to play against those who are topping the table there in Group C of the FIFA Men's World Cup qualification games. All right, for our opponent, that's Rwanda. Their head coach, Adel Amruche, he has named his final 24-man squad for his side 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifiers against Nigeria and Zimbabwe. But let's move away from that and still talking about football from the African continent. Warri Wolves in Nigeria, to be precise, they've been charged for breaching the NPFL League framework after failing to provide adequate security during their matchday encounter against the Rangers. That was on Sunday, and the security lapses caused a delay in the scheduled 4 p.m. kickoff at the Southern Delta University Stadium in Osoro. Still taking updates from the Nigerian scene. Bayelsa Queens they came from behind to beat Burkina Faso. That's Burkina Faso's USFA 2-1 yesterday to reach the finals of the 2025 WAFB Women's Champions League qualifiers here in Yamoussoukro. That's in Ivory Coast. The Prosperity Girls, who won the regional crown in 2022, fell behind inside 2 minutes when Comfort Yeboah capitalized on the defensive mix-up between Florence Alexander and goalkeeper Monle Omini to lobbing into an empty net. But for Bayelsa Queens, they responded quickly, and that's the stuff of a champion. But then the victory also means that Bayelsa Queens, unbeaten throughout the competition, will face Ivorian champions ASEC Mimosas in Friday's final, after they defeated the Ghana Police Ladies 4-1 earlier to become the first Ivorian side to reach the WAFB Women's Champions League final. And the winner of the regional tournament will secure qualifications for the 2025 CAF Women's Champions League and a potential spot at the FIFA Women's Club World Cup and also the FIFA Women's Champions Cup. For Bayelsa Queens, who finished third at the Continental Finals in Morocco 3 years ago and now 1 game away from another appearance on the Africa's bigger stage. While still talking about the Nigeria Women's Football, the Nigeria Women's Football League, NWFL, has confirmed that the official draw for the 2025 NWFL Championship season will take place later today by 1 p.m. and it will be held at the NWFL Secretariat in Abuja and will be conducted online to ensure transparency and wider accessibility. And the draw will feature 17 participating clubs, which will be divided into 4 groups, and the top team in each group will earn automatic promotion to the 2025-2026 NWFL Premiership season. Quickly in the world of tennis, before we call it a wrap on today's edition of the program, Scoreboard in 15, Venus Williams' first Grand Slam tournament in 2 years ended yesterday when she and Lila Fernandez lost in the US Open Women's Doubles quarterfinals to top-seeded duo of Taylor Townsend, who is the woman of the US Open presently, and Katerina Siniakova 6-1, 6-2. And where the match finished after just 56 minutes in Louis Armstrong Stadium, Venus Williams smiled as she walked to the net to shake hands with Siniakova and then hugged Taylor Townsend, and thousands of spectators rose to give Williams a standing ovation, and Townsend and Siniakova then joined in applauding for the Williams. Those you tell that it's definitely a great run for Venus Williams, whom earlier she lost out in the singles. Definitely not been the best for Venus Williams in time past. But then, still talking about tennis stories, you tell that defending champion Aryna Sabalenka moved into the US Open semi-finals without playing after Marketa Vondrousova withdrew with a knee injury, setting up a repeat of last year's final against Jessica Pegula. And then in the men's game, it was Novak Djokovic who set up a blockbuster US Open semi-final with Carlos Alcaraz after delivering a great performance to beat American Taylor Fritz 6-3, 7-5, 3-6, 6-4. And then in the other quarterfinal game, it was Carlos Alcaraz who also earned the spot in the semi-finals when he defeated Jiří Leščáka 6-4, 6-2, 6-4. And the remaining men's singles quarterfinals take place in New York later today. It's either Felix Auger-Aliassime would be up against Alex de Minaur, and then we take Jannik Sinner will take on fellow Italian Lorenzo Musetti. This is how far we can go on today's edition of the program, but we will come later in the afternoon to discuss more sporting stories and make it around there in the world of sport. I am SAMIES, your sports captain. I say do enjoy the rest of your day, and bye for now.
Whether it's a cackle, a giggle,